Welcome back to Duality Bites.
Duality Bites.
I'm Carmela with the Hags of Hagdeal Gaming, and with me I have a hag-adjacent Jay Ben. Hey, Jay Ben.
Hi, Carmela.
Hi. So I wanted to chat with you today, something that actually we both ended up doing separately, and I think it is informed by things that we've talked about previously with our communities,
Yeah.
where we've ended up playing without our full kits, almost playing with one hand tied behind our back during the course of the campaign. I think with where we are with what's aired, Lemma is in maybe not full denial anymore, but at least partial denial that he is a poet.
Yeah.
And so refuses to use some things in his kit. Like flat out refuses. So why don't you talk to me about that?
Yeah. So, I had landed on the concept of a character whose upbringing was at odds with his role as a hero in this world. And for those who maybe are like just interacting with the series at this point, poetry is basically magic in the world of Lacuna. It's the ability to manipulate the weave of reality in a sense. Lemma comes from a community where that's frowned upon. And the fact that he has basically been left with or fostered with a group of poets is a source of great trauma. He's in denial about it. He doesn't want to face it. And I frankly intended to get through that character beat a lot faster. And I set a condition that would be the trigger for Lemma beginning to use his poetic abilities more quickly. That condition just never occurred for many episodes. And finally, I landed, something else happened that felt like it was enough of an emotional character turn to justify easing into the use of Lemma's poetic abilities. So for a big chunk of the beginning of the series, Lemma is using physical abilities. He's a bard, so he has a rapier and dagger. And he has like the ability to talk to people, anything that's social he can use, but none of the spells, essentially. And
you're lugging around this giant tome and you're not using any of them.
I think 3 spell books before I start using spells. And and I think I can at this point reveal that the condition was I have to witness another member of the group being hurt. That was the thing that I was waiting to happen. And Lemma never actually saw that happen. Either he was separated from the party or he was visually separated from the person to whom that was happening. But it just never occurred. And I kept being like, I guess I have to keep not casting spells and finding ways to exist as a character where that makes sense. And it was actually an interesting challenge, but I did have some anxiety. It's always tricky playing a character who's refusing to call repeatedly. So I did have some anxiety about to what extent I might be inhibiting the story advancing. I do think ultimately I ended up feeling okay about how things worked out. But I just said, great, this is a character beat that I'll get over and it will be a cool moment initially. And then it just didn't happen as I planned.
It didn't happen.
Which is what should happen. Your character shouldn't develop the way you plan.
No, it's very interesting. And we gave you a bunch of shit about it just because you're like, I'm like, Lemma, you have spells. But to be fair, I was a bit hypocritical about it because I also had spells. I am fully a caster class and didn't use spells really.
Tell us more about that, Carmela.
Yeah, sure. The 2 domains for the Seraph are Valor, which is your more paladin-y kind of deal, and Splendor, which is more of your healing magic. And actually, we both share a domain with the wizard character, Evelyn. Yeah. Evelyn did take some healing stuff early on. I have healing stuff as part of my class. As a divine wielder, my like subclass feature is that I have something called Sparing Touch. Almost like a Spare the Dying in D&D, except instead of keeping you from having to make death saves, you would like clear like stress or something, but you have to touch that person. When I leveled, I specifically didn't take anything magic related, as opposed to Lemma, who did take something magic related, just didn't use it.
Yeah.
So like we just released an episode where we talk about our first level up, and I grabbed a Valor ability, which was basically a physical ability. So really lead into the no one asked Ginny to be their protector, but she just took that on
Yeah.
herself, which is very much informed by her background, being the oldest daughter and a bunch of other stuff. But I almost ignored Splendor for the first couple levels. And I think the first time I used healing magic, the way I played it off is that she didn't realize she was doing it.
Right.
Because that has to do with her kindling. She used healing, and that's what set some things into motion. I think actually of the four poets, Ginny kindled first, but was the last person to arrive at the
Hmm.
conjuries. Because Ginny kindled when she was 10,
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
and she didn't arrive at the conjuries till she was about 18.
Right.
So that's 8 years of being in this kind of religious town with a lot of, and I know why that is. And I've explained that to Asteria, but nobody else knows why it took so long for Ginny to get to the
Yeah.
conjuries. And there's actually a conversation that I think would be very interesting between Lemma and Ginny
Yeah.
of what's worse, you get that break immediately or you watch your life disappear inch by inch.
Right.
But there's a moment in episode 4, we've had the fight. I'm walking around with an injured arm and I won't let anybody touch it. And Katie even says, I have so much stuff I could heal you with if you just admit that you're hurt. Ginny just won't admit
Yeah.
it. And when she crawls into bed, she like curls herself into a ball. The subtext to that is that she's healing herself with her own magic and she just doesn't tell anybody. It's funny that you said when someone gets hurt was your trigger. The first time I accidentally used my magic is because a party member gets hurt. I know that they're hurt. I don't know if I saw it, but, and then I was just, because I was intrigued by something they were doing and I touched them and I just let that magic happen. So it's very, we didn't talk about these things together. It's really funny that we separately arrived at the almost the same decisions
Yeah.
for why that is. But I think that does go back to the Orderborn
Yeah.
thing of like why all that stuff informs those decisions.
I had exactly the same thought. The Orderborn community is begging for character backgrounds where the character is very ambivalent about the interrelation
Mhm.
of who they are and who they used to be. The
Right.
your one's powers are the direct expression of your character's growth in the game world. It feels like a pretty natural development. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I thought that was cool because I remember when you're like, yeah, I'm not using these spells, and you're like, you're purposely not using your magic. And I was like, oh, lots of things that I'm also
Yeah. And I didn't realize that's what you were doing, actually, in fact,
yeah.
because I was just like, Ginny's just, I think also because the way you play it seems very
Mhm.
connected to the character to Ginny following her impulses. It
Mhm.
just so happens that her impulse is to like physically interpose herself a lot of the time.
Yeah. And part of that is that goes back to one of those dedications, be a shield for the needy. I jump in, not saying that Lemma is weak, but Lemma is a squishy little bard. And I do end up jumping in the way in front of Lemma quite a
Yeah.
bit. Out of nowhere, a goat girl springs into your
Yeah.
vision.
Yeah. Lemma's tough but fragile.
Yeah, because you're a
Hmm.
wordsmith. So instead of being, wordsmiths could also be this, but instead of being like the stereotypical flirtatious, horny bard, Lemma is more of the reclusive writer who like throws out a bestseller every couple of years.
Much more of that. Yeah.
Like that's where
Yeah.
Lemma.
Yeah. More of a kind of traveling preacher. Like that's very sober, very buttoned up. But I think it's interesting because I think we realized recently that Lemma is the most fragile member of the party, mechanically.
Yes, mechanically, you have a pretty high evasion, but your damage thresholds are not good.
No.
If you get hit, it's gonna suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think my minor damage threshold, minor to major, is 15. I think
That's
yours
my
is,
major to severe threshold.
yeah, that I'm like, it's
Yeah.
half that for you.
Yeah.
And I do specifically have an ability that is a Valor ability because I did lean really heavily into Valor the first couple levels of where if someone is next to me, I can basically jump in the way and take the blow for
Yeah.
them. And I've done that quite a few times. And usually it ends up being you because you're usually at the front with me for some reason. The wizard is really good at hanging out in the back, but for some reason you end up usually being
When you give a wizard a rapier,
Mm.
that's a bard.
yeah, for sure.
It's interesting. I think in we both chosen to circumscribe our characters in a really stark way. And you chose to use your powers, but only one wing. You're like a one domain
Hmm.
seraph. And I, for a while, chose to only take powers from one domain but not use them.
Yeah.
Um,
You almost fully took stuff from Codex, which is
all
all
spells,
spells.
all
All
spells,
spells.
which I think wasn't like a totally intentional
Hmm.
direction, but ended up expressing the push pull within Lemma
Yeah.
that is core.
Yeah, I think it's actually really interesting because of Lemma's relationship with books that you end up taking all these grimoires. Grimoires are the spell books within Daggerheart. So you end up with a stack of books for, I guess we could call them nonfiction books. So it's not totally against your order.
Yeah,
But I just think that's really interesting that Lemma has this kind of strange and almost antagonistic relationship with books because of being an
yeah,
elogist, and your satchel is full of them.
yeah. I think there's also, we're talking about this in terms of it just made sense for my character to do this, and that is
Hmm.
part of it. But also, I just, as a player, really like utility and optionality, and the
Oh yeah.
codexes are just like three abilities for the price of one. So regardless of whether I could use them, I like wanted to
Yeah,
get my
no,
creative
you get a
movement with
lot
all
of
of
bang for
them.
your buck
Yeah.
on those. You really do. I do have more splendor abilities now,
Oh.
but the first couple levels I've really leaned almost fully into
Would it be a
Valor. Like I could have just been a guardian.
would it be a spoiler to reveal? Have we already talked about this? Have we conversed about this offline? What your splendor abilities are?
I think I've mentioned a couple of them in the show, but I can read them. We're recording this after we've wrapped season 1. My splendor abilities now are, let me see if this one is one. I know one is healing hands. So that's specifically a healing ability, and it's different than the splendor ability that Evelyn has, which is like a healing touch. I have life ward now, which works pretty similarly to other life ward spells in other systems, where basically I would cast it on somebody, and instead, if they fall to 0, instead of dying, they would like be okay, at least a little bit. They'd have 1 hit point left. Yeah, so they are marked with a glowing sigil protection. When this ally would make a death move, they clear a hit point instead. So very much works like other similar spells in other
Yeah.
systems. I have Bolt Beacon, which is almost Guiding Bolt. If you wanted to compare
Hmm.
it, that is a splendor ability. So basically, I fire out a bolt of light, and it makes that target vulnerable, as well as taking a little bit of
Yeah.
damage. And then the other ones I have are all physical abilities. Body Basher, I think, is my favorite, and I probably have gotten the most use out of that, along with I Am Your Shield.
Yes.
Body Basher is just cool. So Seraphs are strength-based casters, which is wild. Coming from other systems to be a strength-based caster, you're like, I'm
Or
a what?
it's like a Valkyrie, basically.
Yeah, essentially a Valkyrie. And my strength modifier is +3 right now. And so with Body Basher, if I make a successful attack, whatever my damage roll is, I automatically add +3 to it. So if I roll 10 damage, then it's actually 13 damage because I'm that cool. And then my newest one that I got this last level was Second Wind, which,
Nice.
considering how much stress I take by using I Am Your Shield and jumping in front of people, I do need to be able to clear some stress really
Right.
quickly. As far as class features, the thing I probably have used the most is my prayer dice, which is specific to the Seraph. They're really useful.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
that's right. The prayer dice are really, I love them as a mechanic, and I also love how Ginny uses them.
yeah. Yeah, they're really fun. I love that it's a per session thing.
Yeah.
If we am a little bit behind the curtain, there's a couple episodes that we had to split into 2 recordings, or at least 2 recordings for some of them. And I could just refresh my prayer dice in between those things. Like, oh, it's a new day. So,
Feels good.
And yeah, no, the class features and now the core game, because they did change some of our stuff, is way better. And actually, specifically, the Seraph's Hope in the playtest rules was basically I would have the ability to refresh one of my prayer dice, which is useful, considering how much I use them. But now I have something called life support, which is spend 3 hope to clear a hit point on an ally within close range. So it gave me even more healing ability.
Nice.
And I'm like, at least now we're at the point where Ginny's going to actually use that campaign wise. So that ended up being pretty nice. Any other thoughts about tying your hand behind your back, Jay Ben?
I would recommend it. I think, like I said, it wasn't something that I intended to go on for a while. I ultimately enjoyed how it forced me to focus on, to be very creative with certain aspects of Lemma's character. and also to focus on expressing his essence through narrative choices rather than through clever use of my powers. So it, I think, forced me to really be with the character rather than the character sheet for a long time.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. And the way specifically that you used, I think was really clever. I manipulated mechanics more for mine, but I think it was still pretty much informed by those choices that we made character-wise. But it does make it for a little bit more interesting to play sometimes. You don't have to min-max everything.
You don't.
You
Speaking as
really
somebody
don't.
who feels a pull in that direction, you don't have to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you really don't have to
Or you
min-max
can
everything.
knock for 3
Sometimes
levels
it's
and
more.
then do it for the rest of the levels.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think the gloves are off for
Yeah.
Lemma, and it's going to be all spells
Oh,
all
yeah.
the time. We're not going to be able to hold him back. I may have to lift him up and carry him
Yeah.
off, but we're not going to be able to hold him
Lemma's
back
going around
generally.
changing memories. It's all in bounds.
It's going to be an interesting season too. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today, Jay Ben.
It's
This
been
is
an
really
absolute
fun.
pleasure, Carmela.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Duality Bites, a production of Hag Deal Gaming. If you like what we're doing here, come say hi on Blue Sky or TikTok at Hag Deal Gaming. Leave us a review. We'd love to know what you think. And remember, as a wise person once said,
Out of nowhere, a goat girl